Before we get into episode 146, I just wanted to mention the Believe You Can 2021 Talent Show. It's coming up on the 16th of October, and it's presented by the Keystone Chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. Tickets are $10 for an individual ticket, $25 for a watch party ticket, and you can go to BelieveYouCan.live to purchase tickets. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the iCantCU podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 146 of the iCantCU podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode, and I've got a couple of things to talk about, but before I get into that stuff, let me get into the great stuff. You won't care, but I think it's great, and I love to talk about it. My team, FC Tunguska 08, or 08, is still on top of the table in the All-Blind Fantasy Football League. I defeated the Cincinnati Sensations this past weekend, and it was a nail-biter. It was by less than 2 points, and it was very close on Sunday afternoon. They had Kyler Murray, and I was so happy when I was watching NFL Red Zone and they showed Kyler Murray already on the sidelines, later in the game because the Cardinals were up by enough, I guess, and I breathed a sigh of relief, and I was happy about that, and I won, like I said, by less than 2 points. So sorry about that, TJ and Allison. Maybe next time. And I am 4-0 on top of the table. I do not have the most points, though. I think I trail, I think Brian, the league commissioner, I believe he has the top points at this point, and I think by around 10 or 20 points over me. I'm second or third in points, but I am undefeated in first place, and the Montreal Beavers are in second, and everybody knows that he's going to win the whole thing again anyway. So I don't know why we're I don't know why we're even playing. He's won 4 out of the 5 years the league has been in existence. We're in the 6th year so far. So so FC Tunguska still keeps on rolling, and I play a team that I am at least projected to beat, but those projections never go great. So we'll see. Hopefully I will be a perfect 5-0 by the next time we talk. The two things that I really wanted to talk about today, and they're things that I touched on last week too. I have my cornea appointment tomorrow, and as time has gone on, I've mentioned that, my vision has deteriorated to a point where when it was first floated, the idea of having another transplant, I was a little apprehensive because, as I mentioned before, so many things could go wrong. Obviously all the stuff with a surgery, things can go wrong, but, after the surgery, when you mess around with the eye, it could increase the interocular pressure. And, as someone who has congenital glaucoma, that is the worst case scenario for things. I mean, sure, things can happen during the surgery that, could be a problem. But the thing that I would most be concerned with is, spike in the pressure, and then that creates, more vision loss. And, that's the issue. Now, over the last week, I've also realized, as I was trying to read through emails in the last couple of days, and I'm still having trouble with my email client to begin with, so that's another story. That's another story for another day. That is not vision related. That is tech related. And once Believe You Can is done, I'm going to have somebody take a look because I just can't figure out what the story is with the email client. And I use Mail for the Mac. But I was looking at emails the other day, and as I've mentioned before, I use text-to-speech. I don't use VoiceOver on my Mac. I use VoiceOver on my phone, which over the last month or two, I've relied on more. For example, I might be sitting at the computer but want to go through my emails, and I don't have every email account that I have to check on my phone, but I have the important ones on my phone. And it is much easier for me to use my phone to check my email than to try and look to see what the sender and the subject line is and the beginning of it, before I click it, because I don't want to click it and then it be spam and then have all sorts of issues with that. So, I was trying to read it the other day, and on my Mac, as I've mentioned before, I zoom in. And I got to the point where I was zoomed in as much as I could, and, I still couldn't read it. I still couldn't see what it said. So at that point, I came to the realization that I can't continue like this. I've got to do something. And that's something, I guess I'll find out tomorrow. And again, I'm recording this Thursday, the day it drops, the whatever the date is. I think it's the 7th of October. And it's just got to be, whatever the doctor tells me tomorrow, whether it's additional meds, or to do surgery. And then I started thinking, well, if I've got to schedule surgery, I've got things coming up. How do I work around those? Especially if it's a full thickness transplant, there's a longer recovery time than the partial thickness that I had the last time. And, I've got the NFB of Pennsylvania State Convention coming up in November, which, I'll be presenting at and hopefully recording an episode or two of White Canes Connect, or at least getting some interviews for segments on White Canes Connect. And I guess that's all I really have coming up. So, okay, there's not that much coming up. I thought I was more important than I was. So, so it's just, I've just, like I said, I've just realized that it's gotta be, it just has to happen, I think. And as time goes on, I keep thinking about that too with my, I went to, different medical condition, the psoriatic arthritis. I haven't been to my rheumatologist in over 6 months. In fact, it'll be 6 months tomorrow. So not over 6 months, 6 months tomorrow that I've been there, and I didn't make an appointment. The doctor said, don't make an appointment. We got to check out your insurance to change your meds. And I haven't heard anything since. And this has happened before with this rheumatologist. I've only been seeing him for, I think I first saw him about a year ago, and I've only seen him like 3 or 4 times. And, they didn't follow through a couple of times since. So, since I started seeing them, they said they were going to do some things. Nothing ever happened. I had to go and call and say, hey, what's going on with this or with that? And I just got very vague answers. And of course, you never speak to the doctor. So, while I waited for this guy to call back or somebody from his office to call back to see what's going on with the insurance, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to chase this guy. If this guy's going to set it up, they're gonna have to come back to me. So obviously, I'm looking for another rheumatologist, which would be my third. Since I started seeing rheumatologists around 6 or 7 years ago, we had to switch from the one guy because he didn't take our insurance switched from Liz's work. So he didn't take it, so I had to move on. There was a lot to be said about that guy, but I felt most comfortable with him. Even though the 2 meds that he prescribed to me, I noticed there was a place that you could look to see how much money drug companies give to doctors, and they were the top 2. So I know, okay, maybe he was in it for the money, but I felt it was more under control then. I went to another guy, and then he retired, and it was pretty good under him. I was happy with him, and I would have stayed there had he not shut his office down. And I don't want to say he retired because he wasn't of retirement age. He just got tired of having to do all the paperwork, and it took him away from, just dealing with patients. So the combination. So as that happens, for example, I don't go with Liz when she takes Ziggy for a walk anymore because we go after dinner, and now it's dark after dinner, and Liz can't see, all the dips and cracks and whatnot in the sidewalk, and it's just too painful for me to hold onto my cane and sweep on a sidewalk. If I were able to walk in the street where, there's no, the expansion joints or cracks or whatnot, just maybe an occasional pothole or whatever, I would do it. But our streets in this neighborhood are not, people park on both sides of them, so there's not really a lot of space to walk in the street. So I don't, and so I stopped going, and I miss that. And just like with the cornea thing, I've come to the realization I got to do something because I can't keep moving forward when I can't close my hand. I was holding my phone the other day; it dropped right out. So over the last couple of days, I've had this realization of both things. I've got to fix both things, and you've got to you've got to put is the risk reward, for example, of the cornea, doing the new cornea transplant, is that worth it? And I just, I realized, like I said, I just realized it has to happen. And I'll do that. And, whatever, hopefully it goes great. And, I get, back to the vision that I had, which again, isn't great, but it's better than it is now. And I have noticed that, it's different, depending on the day and the time. And, I've also noticed playing with Ziggy, sometimes he likes to crawl under the coffee table when he has something, and I try to go under there to get it from him. And, I notice my eye feels funny, or my eye will get a little blurry. So I'm going to ask her about that tomorrow when I go. And again, sometimes I don't do anything different, and, 1 minute it's good. And again, good for me. If you had vision like that, you'd be freaking out. And the next minute it's horrible. So, there's a few things that, that I've got to find out, and, and I just have to take care of it at this point. It's just, I just can't, continue on this way. And, the same thing goes, after that gets fixed, then I'll worry about the psoriatic arthritis. And as I mentioned in the opening, in the intro, is Believe You Can is coming up next weekend. And it has just been so much this year, and I don't know why. It just seems like there's so much more to do besides helping. I don't know if you want to call it, be the announcer for the show or co-host. I'm basically going to be the one, welcome to Believe You Can, blah, blah, blah. Here are your hosts, Lisa and Stacy. Or here's, let's welcome, Keystone Chapter President Harriet Go, things like that. I'm not going to be the main host or one of the main hosts. I'll just jump in from time to time with stuff like that. So I'm going to do that. And so we've been preparing for that. I am the main marketing person for it. So just about anything that happens, financially on it is, well, and also I'm the treasurer of the Keystone Chapter. Anything financially that falls on it, if it flops, it's mostly on my shoulders. So I would appreciate it if you would go and buy a ticket at BelieveYouCan.live. And it just seems like a lot more this year. For example, last year, obviously, we didn't have an email list of people that had purchased tickets prior to last year's show because last year was the first one. So I thought, we should email those people and say, hey, we're doing it again. Why don't you buy a ticket? And the down and dirty way of doing that was, just using the Gmail account that was set up for the show, BelieveYouCanShow@gmail.com, and just sending the email from there. And so I did that, and then I got worried because once I did that, it took a long time, hours, for the emails to come in. So, and I just did that yesterday. So I'm a little concerned that did everybody get them? One person told me that she didn't get it, and that's Lisa, who is on the committee, and it's actually the chair of the Believe You Can committee. And so I'm concerned that didn't go through. So do I email them again next week? I don't want to be pushy about it, but if they haven't purchased, I'd like to email them again, and maybe they'll make a purchase. So the second way of doing it would have been, and had there been more time or more assistance with, from maybe a few other folks in our chapter or whatnot, would have been to set up, which I will do once this show ends, once everything is behind us, will be to set up a mailing list program from one of the companies, whether it's MailChimp or I think I'm going to go with MailerLite. I know I can have up to 1,000 addresses, and you can send up to 12,000 emails a month, which, we're nowhere near that. And I thought I could segment that with chapter members in one list and Believe You Can folks in another, and so forth. And I thought that would just also be a way throughout the year for the chapter to keep in contact with people, not always asking for money, at the holidays, wishing a happy holiday, and so forth. And hey, here's what we've done, for the holidays with St. Lucy's Day School that is one of the primary things that we fundraise for. Each year at the holidays, we take all the kids in the school gifts. It's a way for those kids to interact with someone who's like them, blind or visually impaired, and they can see that, hey, just because we're blind doesn't mean we can't go and do things. And again, with anybody, you need to have confidence that, hey, I can, hey, I'm blind, I can't do anything. The kids can see, hey, here's these blind folks coming out, they're bringing us gifts. And it's so important. And, that would be something to communicate to anybody on our mailing list. And again, with COVID, that was the main force behind doing the Believe You Can talent show to begin with. We couldn't fundraise other ways. We couldn't go face to face with people. We couldn't sell M&Ms and the other candies that we sold, as we were out and about in the community or at events, other blind events, the NFB convention or the NFB of Pennsylvania convention. So it was a good way to generate money for the chapter to do things like buy those kids gifts at the holidays, or when the kids graduate 8th grade and they're going to move on to high school, to get them graduation gifts. And it's a great cause, and it's something that we love giving to and for those kids. Again, so the primary reason is so they can see that, hey, I'm blind, but look, these people are blind too, and they're bringing us stuff. And, it just gives them more confidence as they go forward into high school and beyond. And a few folks in the chapter actually have gone to St. Lucy's before they moved on to high school and college and whatnot, Harriet being one and Simon being another. So there's just all of the marketing stuff that's going on, and the social media posts. And one thing that I find hysterical in a bad way, obviously you've heard the news over the last week with Facebook and the whistleblower and them, doing some things that, were good for their bottom line, but not good for the world at large. Our website is BelieveYouCan.live. I created a page on Facebook, so you can go to facebook.com/BelieveYouCan talent show, and you'll see the page there. There's a post or two from me, and there's links so you can buy tickets. I keep getting emails from Facebook to add contact information. So I put the email address there, and again, it says if you put your website in, people can go to your website. It will not go to my website. It will not go to the website. It says it violates community standards. And I just don't get it. It says it's spammy and so forth and so on. So, in all their wisdom, it's okay for them to, to foster the hate speech, but to try and help a bunch of blind folks get together and put on a talent show and have a website for it, that goes against community standards. Just hysterical. So between all of the social media stuff and all that, so swamped there. And besides the social media, there's also promoting it via podcast. We did a White Canes Connect episode that I have had so much trouble editing, and the files were not synced. So the audio files were all over the place. There's, Lisa and my tracks are okay, but everybody else's are a little bit off. Some a little bit off, some completely off the charts. So I'm having huge difficulty. And the other thing with White Canes Connect is it's not yet officially a podcast because it's not in the directories. So we rely on it going up on the NFB of Pennsylvania website at nfbp.org/whitecanesconnect. But sometimes it takes a while for that to get posted over there. We don't have a while. We have basically a week. So I've got to finish getting it edited and get it to everyone. so it can get it posted on the NFB of Pennsylvania site. So what I've decided, and time has just been so restrictive, it seems. Everybody's got so much going on, me trying to edit that. And so this episode today that I'm recording was originally going to be for Believe You Can, and I was going to have Harriet and Lisa on, and our schedules just weren't matching up. And I thought, we've already kind of done it. Why don't I just release White Canes Connect as a bonus episode? I don't know if you noticed a few weeks ago, speaking of bonus episodes, a few weeks ago, I had clicked the button when I posted one of the episodes, and I think it was episode 144. Not 100% sure. It was a couple episodes ago. And it said bonus. I thought I was clicking on it was clean. There were no explicit words in there. And I don't think I've actually had explicit words in the podcast as of yet. I haven't spoken them if that's the case. And I don't think any guest has that have been on. So watch for that bonus episode. It'll be a bonus episode of the iCantCU podcast, which will basically have White Canes Connect episode 5 in it. And that will be the Believe You Can interview with Desmond and Jan and Harriet, and Lisa and I are the ones who host that podcast, or soon to be podcast, that audio program as it is now. So we've been promoting. So we did that episode of White Canes Connect, and then Simon was kind enough to get us on the Blind Abilities podcast. He interviewed Lisa, Harriet, and myself, along with Stacy Leap. Stacy has been on this program, I don't remember how many episodes ago. I want to say around Mother's Day of this year. So, we're on with him, and hopefully that gets posted, in the next few days. And again, once it gets posted, I will tweet out the link as well as post it in the show notes most closely to that episode. If it comes out today, for example, I'll post it in the show notes for this episode. And again, that's at Blind Abilities. They have an app. They really have it going on over there. And, they produce a lot of content, and they have a lot of listeners, many, many thousands more than I have. So I appreciate that. And, again, I'm geared more to folks who want to know how to handle and deal with blind folks in the right way, and not answer them by pointing somewhere when they ask where the bathroom is. And, they have no idea, and we have no idea where you're pointing. And I know I've talked about that a million times. So between these different interviews and everything else going on, and again, then there's all the personal life stuff that everybody has going on. And, now we're setting up the sound checks for the different, I was going to say contestants, and I guess they are contestants, the different performers. Last year, one of the things that we thought we could have done better was to basically have a practice run with the performer, so they know how to position their mic and where how their mic sounds with whatever they're doing, whether it's them playing an instrument or whatever they're doing. So we want that to, it would make us feel a little better, and it'll obviously give the performer a little bit of confidence, come the night of the show, and make them a little less nervous, because we want everybody to be live, but that's not always the case. And sometimes if I know last year a few people submitted files, whether video or audio, that turned out to be, a little difficult. And again, we're using Zoom for this, but it's not the Zoom webinar. It's just the plain old Zoom that you would use if you were doing a conference call. So you're constantly having to mute folks, because you don't want, somebody's performance to be interrupted. And it's not the best format. Zoom is, or the best platform. Zoom for this is not the best platform. And I said that last year. And again, that's, something I did not do. I should have found a better platform to do this. And, I guess it kind of crept up, and 8 million other things going on. And I'll tell you one thing with everything that's happening between Believe You Can and White Canes Connect, and to the point of White Canes Connect, it's going to be a podcast sooner or later. I'm hoping sooner, but it's going to happen. I have actually started to set up whitecanesconnect.com so that when it is a podcast, and maybe even before, the audio files can go there and go up right there. It'll happen right away. It won't happen. There have been instances where we've waited more than 2 weeks for an episode to get posted over on the Pennsylvania affiliate site, and it's just too long. It's just too long, especially if it is time sensitive, as the White Canes Connect episode is. The Believe You Can episode is, and one that Lisa recorded the other day for a conference that's coming up the day before Believe You Can. So my fingers are crossed that those audio files are okay, and that I don't have to spend hours upon hours, going through that. And I have to say, there's in the Believe You Can episode, and again, I may need to get help from someone, to get it finished, because it's got to get up there, and time, as they say, is of the essence. But there was a point where Lisa was talking and introducing Desmond Jackson, who came in second last year, and he is from the Greater Baltimore chapter of the NFB of Maryland. But in Philadelphia, there's a Greater Philly chapter, and because we always talk about Greater Philly, and Lisa lives in Philadelphia, and obviously we have friends in Greater Philly, so when she started to say Greater, she said, and Desmond Jackson from the Greater Philly chapter. Greater Baltimore chapter. I fixed that in an edit. It is seamless. You would never know she messed up, other than the fact that she kind of chuckled after she said Baltimore. And, you're wondering what happened. Why is she laughing? But you don't notice the edit. It is great. So I hope that stands by the time I'm done doing the whole thing. And if I have to get help from someone, I hope that edit remains, because it is my proudest achievement in audio editing at this point. So I'm hoping that stands. So all of this stuff going on, and trying to get all this, all of, any personal projects, I've been working on a couple of affiliate sites. I've been working on iCantCU.com. It's all been pushed aside. So it's been nothing but Believe You Can, White Canes Connect, and Keystone Chapter stuff over the last 6 weeks, I would say. And, so I've got that appointment, my doctor appointment tomorrow. Saturday, we're going to the Penn Museum, and I'm very excited about this, and interested to see how I do. Now, it's not going to be a typical meeting, because Liz is going in with me, because if you remember back in the summer, I talked about the Keystone Chapter t-shirts. Because everybody is going to the Penn Museum for our meeting, we're taking the t-shirts in, and that's not something I could take on the train. It's a big box of shirts, so there's no way I could take that with and safely go. So Liz will be there for part of that. She'll help me with the shirts, and she'll hang out for a little bit, and then she'll head home. And then after our meeting, we get to go through the museum, and because the University of Pennsylvania is I don't know what they call it, hotspot, a whatever for IRA. That's spelled AIRA, which is a service that, you use your phone, your iPhone with, that helps you. They've got trained professionals that, say, hey, what's this say? They help you navigate a place, things like that. It's if you want an idea, there's a couple of apps out there that do similar things. And I think one is called Be My Eyes. I think I've tried that, but those folks are volunteers. The folks at IRA are paid and they're trained, and it's a lot different. It's a lot different. I would, show for example, I would not take out my credit card statement and let somebody from Be My Eyes, read it, because you just don't know what you're going to get. 3 hours later, you've got another couple $1,000s in charges on there. With IRA, Not even a question. Absolutely would help you do any of that. And again, because they're trained and they're company backed, it's a lot different. So that's why you use services like IRA that usually have a fee. And the fees with IRA are similar to, and if you're not that old, you wouldn't remember cell phone plans back in the day. Back in the 80s and 90s, when I got my first phone, which was a phone that was in a bag that had two cords coming from it. One you plugged into the cigarette lighter, and one had an antenna that had suction cups on it that you stuck on the windshield of the car. Back in those days, you got a certain number of minutes for a certain price. And if you went over those, God forbid you went over those, because it was crazy amounts of money. IRA's pricing is similar to that, other than with the crazy amounts once you go over. If you go over, you just basically get bumped to the next plan for that month, I believe. And if you're listening and I'm wrong, please correct me. But IRA, like I said, there are places that you can use IRA for free. Target, a lot of airports. Again, University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia is a place, and because the Penn Museum is part of the university, you can use it there. So they're actually testing it, and we're going to help test it. And I'm really looking forward to that. And so that will most likely be what I talk about next week, unless my appointment tomorrow is horrible. Then obviously I'll talk about that. And look, you can believe I'll be talking about Believe You Can next week as well, because we'll be at crunch time for that. But I'm excited to go to the Penn Museum. It's a place I love. They've got, and I've done some other episodes about it. They've got some Egyptian stuff there. They've got a lot of great stuff, and its full name, I don't even remember. It's got archaeology or something like that in there, and just all sorts of stuff. Hieroglyphics that on certain days they have. Folks who are blind and visually impaired can actually touch some of the stuff, like some of the old Egyptian statues and hieroglyphics and things like that. It's just awesome. It's a lot of fun, and so I will be talking about that at some point. And I'm hoping that, as I was saying to Lisa a few days ago, that would be a great episode for White Canes Connect. That would be, again, IRA is more specific for blind folks. Or visually impaired, as opposed to the sighted community, and it would give an idea of what they could use it for, even if they don't pay for the program. Again, you can go into Target and use it. You can use it. You get one call a day for up to 5 minutes if you really needed it. And I did use it once to read my Wi-Fi password a few years ago. I spoke to a girl named Terry. I think the call lasted maybe 3 minutes or 2 minutes. It was late at night. Everybody in the house was sleeping, and I just needed some help because something happened to the Wi-Fi password. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, it just so happens that one of the teams in the Fantasy Football League, the All Blind Football League, she works for IRA. And I bring it up not because of that and because I'm talking about Ira, but I love her team name. She is from Ohio. Her team name is the Buckeye Hairless Nuts. So, Liz said to me the other day, she said, "You just like saying that name." And I said, "I can't wait till I play them." So hopefully in that White Canes Connect episode, we can get Janine to come on and also talk about Ira. And of course, I'd also have her talk about the Buckeye Hairless Nuts. So that would be a lot of fun. And she is quite a character, and she's new to the league this year. And she was very into the draft, and it was a lot of fun. And so hopefully things will go well at my appointment tomorrow. So keep your fingers crossed for me there. I really believe there's only one of two ways that could go. Please keep your fingers crossed for me editing the White Canes Connect episode, because it is really killing me. It is really killing me. So I've probably got about 4 hours into it at this point. So I do appreciate you listening to this podcast episode. It's been episode 146 of the iCantCU podcast. Remember, if you have any questions or comments or show ideas, please reach out 646-926 6350. Please leave your name and town, and if it's okay if I use your voice in an upcoming episode, you have up to 3 minutes, so you have plenty of time to leave all that stuff, and I would love to hear from you. Also, if you don't want to do that, you can also reach out via email, iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. And just tell me what you're thinking, and if you haven't done so already, please rate, review, and subscribe. Or, pardon me, there's new terminology, follow, because you don't subscribe. I guess if you subscribe now, you're actually paying. And I don't know that this podcast is worth paying for. I do appreciate you listening, though. Show notes are available at iCantCU.com/146. Remember, iCantCU sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 letters long. iCantCU.com/146. And again, I appreciate you listening. I hope you're well. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.